give me one shot here on a blue chip stock, believe me, Kevin, the only problem you're gonna have is that you didn't buy more.
Nobody knows if the stock is going to go up, down, sideways, or in circles.
What is good, NBA Draft fam? Your boys are back. The Wolves of Ball Street, the Draftdaq NBA Draft Podcast. I am Corey Sullivan, your host, alongside my co-host, Albert Garbage Time Gim. Albert, how are we doing this week?
Dude, it's a good day. It's a good day. I am doing well. We had a big day at No Ceilings today.
Mm-hmm.
Dropped a big old board.
Yes, sir.
Got some good traction on that. Busy week overall, but yeah, man, feeling good, ready to go. Excited to talk about this dude. We're kind of riding off the coattails of Rucker and his breakdown video of this guy, but we're gonna give a different perspective, different intel on this player, and we're hoping you guys are ready to rock. I'm good to go though. I'm feeling good. How are you doing?
Love to hear it. I'm good to go as well. You know, my basketball team, we lost an overtime game tonight. So, you know, I wish the result had been reversed there, but we were down 19 early, fought back, you know, made some plays, but that's the way it rolls sometimes, you know. I love the fight we showed.
Sounds like a New York basketball team there.
It's going around. All right. So obviously, if you clicked on this episode, you know that we are covering Kendall Brown from the defending national champion Baylor Bears. Mr. Brown is a wing, currently 18 years old, will be a very young 19 on draft day. 6'8", 205. According to an interview that he did with Pro Insight, he says that his wingspan is 6'11". He has a reported 40-inch vertical. So far in this young season, Mr. Brown is averaging 13.4 points per game, 3.8 rebounds per game, 2 assists, 1.4 turnovers, 0.4 blocks, 1.5 steals per game. This is where it gets really fun as we get to his percentages. And just to remind you, again, we're very early in the season, 71.9% overall field goal percentage, 57.1% from three, 73.3% from the line, true shooting percentage of 75%. He has a PER of 30. Absolutely monster stats from Kendall Brown. I'm assuming those are going to drop a little bit throughout the year. That's why I want to cover him somewhat early in the process. And, you know, people are interested in him. And like you said, we're riding Rutgers coattails. Let's get into the stock prices. Preseason, he was unranked on ESPN. SB Nation had him at 23. He was unranked at Tankathon. Basketball News had him at 25. Bleacher Report had him at 19. He had an average stock price of 31.6. That ranked 29th on the Draftdaq IPO. Currently, ESPN has moved him up to 19. Tankathon has him at 10. Basketball News has him at 8. Bleacher Report has him at 18. And No Ceilings, again, we've released our big board on the No Ceilings Substack. Subscribe to that for free. Has him at 8. That's an average price of 12.6. He jumped around 16 spots.
Jesus.
It's a big jump. That's why I wanted to cover him. So, Albert, I ask you, is Kendall Brown's stock price too high, too low, or is it just right?
Boy, at this point of the season, with what we've seen, and we're projecting that it kind of stays the same or gets better. Obviously, the shooting, I don't think it could get any better than what he's shooting now. But yeah, I'm gonna say 12 is a little high. Sorry, a little low.
Okay.
Wow, a little rust here or something. I actually, you know, I don't know, man. I don't remember where I had him on my board. No, I definitely had him top 10. I definitely had him top 10.
You had him at 8.
Wow, look at Corey with the research he knows. So yeah, I'm gonna say 12 is too low for me. I have him at 8 on my board. I like this guy a lot. Obviously, we're gonna talk about why I like him so much. I think you like him too. I don't remember where you had him on your board.
I do.
But yeah, I'm gonna say 12 is a little low for me, just a tad.
Okay. I'm okay with the price. 12.6 is a fine price. It is a little high for where I personally had him. I had him at 16.
Okay.
And I think that he's obviously a guy that can continue to rise, even if his percentages kind of drop a little bit. Obviously I'm not expecting them to continue being in the 70s and high 50s from three. So even if they just normalize, I still think he has a path to kind of dropping, but it's going to entail him showing some things that maybe I haven't seen yet that we'll get into. I don't hate him being at 12.6 because I think that while we're early and we're not in conference play, I do think that there are enough prospects that have shown enough that we can get, that this early ranking. I know that, Mr. Rucker hated that we had to do a cumulative big board so early at no ceilings. But I think that it's an important exercise, especially, our show is based on monitoring the progress and stock price of these kids throughout the year. So obviously we have to go that route, but I'm fine with it. I'm not mad. It's basically back end of the lottery, and
Right.
he's certainly a lottery talent. But I think in this little area where we're at here, it feels like from maybe that 10 to 14 range, 10 to even 18 range, there's a whole bunch of guys that could go in any direction, up or down. So that's why this is going to be a fun one to follow throughout the cycle.
Yeah, I think that's totally, totally fair. And to be honest, like with where I'm at with him now at 8, we're talking about very early in the season. He could drop
Very
on my board. He could rise on my board. He could be all over the place. Same for you. Same for us as a
100%.
collective and no ceiling. So yeah, I actually think what you said makes more sense than what I said. So um, yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. Well, that's why we do it. All right, let's get into the scouting report. Let's start with the shooting. If you look at the percentages, you think, well, it's clearly his strength. I did a
Mhm.
reaction to ESPN's top 100, although I only cover the top 30.
Mhm.
And when I talked about Kendall Brown, I did a little thing. I was like, I'm not sure about the shooting.
Mhm.
And somebody commented like, what is there to be concerned with about the
Oh.
shooting,
Mhm.
right? Like it's the percentages are there.
Oh.
I'm concerned. How about this? Concern might be strong,
Okay.
but I'm going to be tentative in my evaluation of it. Is it real? Let's start here. Is the shooting ability real?
Not at this level.
Not at this level. Okay.
Not even close.
Ignoring the
Yeah.
percentages, but
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
in general, is the
Yeah.
shooting real?
I actually have major questions.
Mm.
Major questions. And for me, it's not like for our listeners out there who criticize like that say like we just agree all the time. For me, I think you and I are kind of on the same page here. But I actually, for me, I actually have something like that I directly want to speak to with him. Um, I don't love the shooting motion.
Okay.
Number one, and then number two, the biggest critique that I have in shooting wise, Corey, his footwork is really inconsistent. Like
Mm.
really, really inconsistent. When you watch him make threes, his footwork is generally pretty good. But when he
Hmm.
misses, dude, his feet are like this far apart. Like
Okay. So like pencil.
exactly, when he's missing because his feet are like right next to each other. It looks terrible, his footwork when he misses. And so for me, where I'm going to agree with you 100% is that like obviously, and also for the people who are just going to look at the percentages, like what are you guys doing? I think he's not even
Our
attempting.
listeners are smarter than that. Our
Yeah,
audience is smarter than that.
he's not even attempting 1 3 per game right now. I think he's at
That's
like
the
point
thing.
0.9, right? Like
Yep.
that if
0.9.
you guys have to, not you guys, but people out there, please like think about the context, think about the bigger picture. He's not taking that many threes. I think the shooting motion he needs some help. I think the follow through, sometimes he has a follow through, sometimes he doesn't. That comes and goes sometimes, I feel. But the biggest critique that I have is the footwork. Like when his feet are this close together on a miss and you just go, well, buddy, you know why you missed that one. Your feet are just, come on, what is that? So but once again, like these aren't like major flaws to his shooting. So that's why I say I have questions, I have concerns, but I'm not saying that I think he's a non-shooter. I actually think
Yeah.
he could eventually be a pretty damn good shooter. Not that he'll ever be the second coming of Klay Thompson, or be at the level of a guy like Caleb Houston or Max Christie or whatever, or Hyunjung Lee. But I do feel like
Let's go.
eventually he could be a pretty good shooter, and if he can become a 36%, 37% three-point shooter with all the other tools that he's got, that's pretty lethal. So I'm going to go ahead, Corey, and agree with you and say I have some concerns for sure.
Okay. Yeah. So, like you said, it's 0.9 attempts a game. Like, even, talk make or miss. I mean, he's taken less than 10 threes overall at this point in the season, right? I think that his stroke is actually pretty projectable in a positive way moving forward, right? I think that when you look at some of the shots that he does hit, especially when he has time,
Mm-hmm.
I think that it looks pretty smooth. It's a fluid motion. I think the follow through, sometimes it feels a little rushed up top, but
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it looks decent, and he's got good touch. He's showed good touch from all over the floor. He's not shooting a million free throws by any stretch of the imagination. I think it's like a little over 2, but he's at 73%. So that's not bad. It's not like he's, 55% from the free throw line. I'm actually, I think, pretty bullish on him as a spot up shooter. In a, like, can you just make a shot off, a weak side hit, right? It's not like you're going to stick him in the strong corner, most likely. Yeah. So I'm pretty bullish on that. Obviously, he's not going to hit 57% of his threes. Nobody does that. It's impossible. I don't know if he's going to end up around 40%. If he shoots low volume, maybe he does, But I would like to see that volume go up a little bit, because I think that's a major question mark in his game. And if he can answer that, it's a whole different construction. Now, I don't think there's too much to his shooting. Like, and we'll talk, like, when looking at his off the dribble shooting, we're not really going to get much, right? But if we make that a little bit broader into talking about kind of self-creation, how do you feel about his ability to create his own shot in any form or fashion, whether it be, in the mid-range, from deep? How do you feel about that overall?
Well, something I'll say is there were a couple possessions where he went off the dribble and had a nice little mid-range pull-up, and I was like, oh, yeah, cool, not bad.
Yeah, love to see it.
Yeah, like, I like the handle on him. First step is wildly quick. We're talking about a very explosive athlete here in Kendall Brown. I think right now, though, Corey, something that I think we do need to mention is that people are running out to him on the 3-point line like he's Klay Thompson. Did you notice that? Like, I was watching a couple of the games and people are closing out on him hard, and I was like, this is the case right now. I don't think that's going to be the case forever. Eventually, I think, people are going to realize that he's not like a dead eye shooter. So sorry, but I just kind of want to throw that in there. But just going back to your question, there have been little moments, right? Little moments where he has created off the dribble. I think he's using his quickness. He's got a pretty good handle. But obviously, like, shooting off the dribble, we have to see more of. There hasn't been heavy volume at all. I mean, if there was like a shot chart, he's probably like 96% dunks right now. And everything else is just kind of a little sprinkle of this, little of that. But yeah, I will say, once again, the handle, I like his handle. First step is really quick from what I saw. So I think there's potential there, but we're not, I 1,000,000% we're not talking about a Devin Booker here. In terms of No. I think there might be some potential, but we have to watch a little bit more because of just like the nature of how he's being used right now by Baylor as well.
Yeah, and one of the things, like, the reason I want him to be able to up the volume on the shooting, and I want teams to have to run him off the line in some capacity, because I do think that his handle is really smooth. I don't think that he's Kyrie Irving,
Right.
but I think that he's got a smooth and functional handle where he could do a little bit off the bounce. So if he is run off the line, I do like how he can create. And if he could hit from multiple spots and not just be a guy who's got to get all the way to the hoop, that obviously, adds a dimension to his game that's really interesting. Now, you don't want him settling for those shots because he is so efficient around the hoop. And, you mentioned how many times he's dunking with that athleticism, but I also think he's doing a good job showing touch on,
Oh yeah.
kind of like floaters and,
Right.
reverse layups and all. He's very crafty around the rim, and his touch is so good.
Yeah.
Right. And at least it has been so far. And again, I don't think the percentages are going to keep up as high as they are. But I think that he is going to be a guy who shoots a super high percentage just because he can kind of get to certain spots on the floor and finish efficiently by dropping in smooth little shots if he's not dunking the ball. And that's nice because, if he was just a guy who needed to dunk at, be in the dunker spot or whatever and just only could dunk, we're talking about a way different prospect. But there's a reason that he's been shooting up boards, and it's because for as simple and basic as his game may seem on the surface, there are these little nuances to it that make you go, oh, that was
Mhm.
crafty, right?
Right.
And honestly, I remember watching some of his high school tape, and I kind of feel like I didn't see a little bit of that craftiness. Now, I wasn't like
Mhm.
diligently watching hours and hours and hours of his high school film, but from the little I watched, he just looks like a much more confident player in who he is and what his strengths are. And maybe that's a good thing. And him going to Baylor, playing in such a system that allows everybody to play to their strengths so effectively. I think that was a good job by him. What do you think about like his off ball movement?
Yeah. I mean, Corey, we talk a lot about shooters here,
Mm-hmm.
offensive players. We like to highlight the shooting, but with Kendall Brown, the off-ball movement, baseline cutting, reading the strong side stuff, and reacting appropriately on the weak side, it's phenomenal, dude.
Yeah.
That right there is the headline with this guy. I lost count in terms of the baseline cuts that I saw this guy make, and he would just catch it and absolutely rip two-hand dunks at the rim. And have you noticed that he makes it a point to keep his head by the rim every time on these dunks? Like that's like his thing. Like he wants to show everybody that he has to kind of tilt his head on dunks because he gets up so high. Yeah,
He's
his
also got the
off-ball
hair.
stuff.
He's got the cool hair.
That too. He does have the cool hair. This is just a really cool player. You
He's
just
very
you
cool.
just mentioned, Corey, the nuance about this game, about his game, sorry, his game specifically. His off-ball stuff is unbelievable. Like
Mhm.
truly unbelievable. And on both sides, like off-ball offense, off-ball defense, this guy is electric. Absolutely
Yeah.
electric. You can tell that this guy is a thinker. That's the thing that I really enjoy about his game. I feel like not that he's overthinking the game, but he's properly thinking the game. And I love that about him. He reacts so well to what the ball handler is doing on both ends of the floor once again, but especially on offense. Like when he doesn't have the ball and he's in the corner, weak side corner, whatever. He's just dude. Like it feels like he's, as the old saying goes, he's playing chess and he's not playing checkers. Like
Mhm.
that's what it feels like. He's making reads like 2, 3, 4 seconds ahead, and that's like a lot of time if you think about professional or what do we call college, like professional sports? I have no idea. But
They're referred to as amateur sports.
oh, if they're amateurs, Jesus Christ, what the hell am I?
Look,
Yeah,
Albert, the
yeah.
NCAA is
Hmm.
based all around their love and passion for
Hmm.
amateurism.
God damn.
Fuck
Okay.
those guys so hard.
Yeah. But anyway, Corey, I'm with you. Well, actually, you haven't even said anything yet. I just kind of went first, but I know what you're hinting at, and I know why you brought this up because I think you and I are definitely going to be really high on his off-ball stuff. I was
Yeah.
amazed by it. I really enjoyed it a lot. Rucker did a great job breaking that down in his video, but even if you didn't watch Rucker's video, you could see like this guy is special.
Yeah, it's the IQ, it's the understanding and timing of when and where to be, when to cut, when not to, when to stay out of the way. I love it all. And the passing, I think
Ooh.
I
Uh-huh.
I think that people are going to possibly make like some Scotty Barnes
Uh-huh. Yeah.
comparisons at some point. And I'm a little tentative to hop so far on that bandwagon because I think that Scotty Barnes had a much bigger role in handling the initiation of offense, right? Whereas I think that a lot of like the passing that Kendall's shown that's been so impressive is like read and react, coming off movement, transition,
Transition, yeah.
stuff like that. Whereas you could put Scotty in a bunch of ball screens and he's going to make the right decision the majority of the time. Now, with that said, I have seen Kendall run some ball screens, some side ball screen action, some nice like overhead, one live dribble passing to the roller. Nothing super sophisticated has caught my eye, but just enough to go, okay, you can probably
Mm.
run some really interesting things with this kid
Hmm.
if you're, whoever's your coach. Like if you have a really clever offensive coach, he goes
Hmm.
to a Minnesota or the Clippers with Ty Lue or any of these really
Yeah.
fun, you can run some stuff with him. He's got
Yeah.
that versatility to his game. The passing is just another wrinkle, and I think that he had that 10 assist game early on, and that opened up some eyes. Low turnovers, right? And you're like,
Right.
wow, like he's a guy that could fill it up all over the place. He hasn't necessarily done that on a consistent basis, and he doesn't have like a high usage role in the offense.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm intrigued for the
Mhm.
future of this season and what kind of passing and playmaking flashes he could show.
Dude, I'm a million percent in agreement with you. I think the role that he's in, if anything, Corey, you said that, like in terms of like him doing like the ball handling and, in screen situations or whatever, I actually really liked when they used him as a screener.
Mm,
And then there were a couple times where he would catch the ball in the short roll
yeah.
and he was making reads. And the thing that really impressed me, there was a possession when they were playing one of those schools like with a weird name, not like a Dixie, but it's like Arc something. I don't remember the name of the school. Anyway, one of those like
Yeah,
smaller
they all
schools.
sound made up at this
I
point.
know, I know. Dixie Hills is my favorite, or whatever the hell the name of that school was. But they were playing one of those schools, and he was a screener in some pick and roll action, and they threw it to him in the short roll, and like it felt like he was manipulating the defense with his eyes. Like it felt like the whole defense, like they were on him, and he was just selling stuff with his eyes, and he threw a pinpoint pass to the weak side corner, and I was like, that play alone is more than enough for me to get excited about this kid, because if he's doing that now and they can run that type of action with him as like a 6'8", super bouncy athletic type of guy, and he can make that type of read and manipulate the defense with his eyes like that, I was like, wow, that's really good. I agree with you that he's not Scotty Barnes, because he's not, I really don't know if he'll ever be like the initiator, but if he can be a guy like that in the short roll, like Corey, we talk about all these playmaking bigs and them having to have the ability to make plays in those situations. Watching Kendall Brown do that, I was like, oh, that's why we need to get excited about his passing. Also in transition, or like when he's attacking the rim and it's like 2-on-1 situation when he's getting downhill and it's just him and the big, and then he's got his big in the dunker spot or whatever. He is so good at anticipating whether the big is going to come out on him or not. And he throws these like inch perfect passes with
Mhm.
really good timing and touch. And those moments, I'm like,
Soft.
I'm like, this is so freaking good. And there are a lot of like, you'll people will watch his highlights, and there's a lot where like he's jumping in the air and then he'll like whip it around. Like those are good
Oh,
too.
yeah.
But yeah, those are really, really good. But he doesn't only do that, because I think it's dangerous when guys can only make the pass like off the jump and stuff like that. But that's not the case at all. He's so savvy and really good. He's got this like innate clock in his head where he knows exactly when to throw the pass or to attack the rim. Him in transition is spicy. It's really, really fun. I think he's so good at like manipulating things with his athleticism. It's like he knows that he can leverage his athleticism into an opportunity either for himself or his teammate. That's awesome. Like on the college level, you have a 6'8" wing doing that. That's exciting. And I think that's why I had him so high. But I just wanted to piggyback off of what you said. I 100% agree. I think Scotty Barnes is a little bit of a stretch, but he's going to do a lot with his passing that's going to get people excited.
For sure. And like you said, it's the highlight stuff, but it's also the very nuanced stuff. Honestly, he reminds me a little bit, and it's way different, but some of the passes he makes remind me a little bit of like the feeling I got watching Mobley as a passer last year.
Oh.
And obviously like Mobley, a lot of he's able to do a lot of it because he's so tall and he could see over the defenses and he's making these whip passes. It's definitely different because they're completely different players, but just the kind of like shock that when you first watch it in a good way is the same thing that I think, the first time I watched Mobley and you were like looking for these skills and you're like, oh, he could also pass like this. What is this? So that's kind of like what I get out of Kendall Brown. I mean, we've glossed over, we've kind of buried the lead here. His transition game is like the most fun thing that he has in his bag, and he's got a bunch of fun things. I love watching this kid run the break, and it could be with the ball in his hands, or it could be him running the wing, running the pipe. I mean, whatever the case, wherever he is, whatever lane he's filling, I love it all. And I want more of it, and I want it all the time. And he's so good, and it's one of the reasons, again, him playing to all of these strengths, why he's been so efficient early on in the season.
Yeah, dude, I 1,000,000,000% agree. And in transition, you really get to see how coordinated he is. Like,
Yes.
he is a supremely coordinated athlete. The way that he runs, the way that he moves forget about the fluidity, which is unbelievable. He's so damn quick. Like, it makes no sense to me how quick he is, even in short bursts and long bursts or whatever. He's so quick. It's not just fast. He's really, really quick and explosive in that area. So I'm with you. In transition, he's a blur. He's dangerous. He can pass in transition. I think Rucker, in one of the posts that he showed, one of the clips that he showed in his video, it was like in transition, nice little like step through, gather, dribble, whatever
on
thing.
The right
and it was
wing.
like,
yep.
Exactly. Just beautiful, dude. And then, as you mentioned before, the soft touch at the rim, it's like, this guy is actually terrifying in transition and does so much more than just jump high and run fast. The nuance, as you mentioned, is a big part of his transition game. That's a lot to love.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And, I'm just like, you picture him running the wings in the NBA alongside some of these point guards that the league is loaded with, and you just get some bright ideas in your head, right? Or you picture him running alongside, some of these playmaking wings that you could just see him getting so many easy baskets, just running the floor. And I mean, that's with all the space and as fast as teams want to play, that athleticism, that ability to get up and down the court is such a positive. I mean, there was one play today that I watched where he finished in transition, and then the other team got the ball in quick, got out, ran a break, and he came over and blocked the shot all in the span of like 10 seconds. Now, one of the other help side defenders on Baylor came over and fouled the guy, so it ended up with 2 free throws. So, he won't get credit for that necessarily, but the effort to run the floor both ways, literally doing like a wind sprint in practice, like going end to end, was super impressive. So I love his ability to get up and down the court, and just you add the IQ and his ability to pass. It's unbelievable. Anything that we're missing from his offensive game that really caught your eye?
That really caught my eye.
Because I do think that his offensive game is somewhat
limited.
Limited seems like the wrong word, right? Because he does a lot, but it's very cut and dry.
Okay.
He's not. Here's one of my concerns with his offensive game. Okay. And I kind of have to go into. I'll give away my kind of one of my comparisons now. And we'll save yours, I guess, unless it's the same one, which would, then in which case we'll just do that segment now. But like, I see a little bit of Aaron Gordon in him, right?
Oh, okay.
Kind of 6'8", bouncy, can pass a little bit, right? A little bit better handles than you probably think. But one of the things that I felt like kept happening in Orlando with Aaron Gordon, they kept just trying to make him a small forward. They tried making him this wing that could be a scorer, and he wanted that too, right? Instead of just making him this utility, do it all defensive stopper who could like run the break, make cuts, score efficiently, play make out of the short roll, like you said, and just play this really simplified game. Now, Kendall Brown's kind of playing exactly like the perfect world Aaron Gordon plays. And I think you saw that a little bit when Denver was fully healthy for a short amount of time, where he could just sit and thrive in that role. But I wonder if there's a team out there that is going to look to draft him and be like, maybe we could turn him into, Paul George, like whatever they wanted Aaron Gordon to turn into, rather than kind of this utility wing who could just star in his role. I wonder how much more he has to his game that he's not necessarily showing, that he'll show off in the NBA, if he even has that, and what the risk reward is for having him kind of try to develop those things instead of just perfecting what he's awesome at.
I think, okay, first off, I want to say the Aaron Gordon comp is awesome. I'm actually really jealous of that comp because I actually really struggled to find a comp for Kendall Brown.
Aaron Gordon didn't play in the 90s, so I knew you wouldn't come up with him.
So I actually didn't even have a 90s guy because, like, I can't imagine anyone in the 90s really playing like the way that Kendall Brown does right now for Baylor.
Yeah.
So you're going to hate this. I actually said DeAndre Bembry. So the reason why I said I'm like laughing at my own comp. But we might as well just do it now because you brought it up anyway.
All right. So if you're buying stock in Kendall Brown, maybe you bought stock in Aaron Gordon or DeAndre Bembry.
I was thinking like a more athletic, potentially better shooting DeAndre Bembry, because like Bembry, when he came in, like the whole deal with him is like 6'6" guy. He can play make, he can dribble the ball a little bit. He's going to do, as you just mentioned, right? The utility aspect of his game was like the kind of the calling card with him. Obviously, DeAndre Bembry wasn't ever number 8 on anybody's big board, let alone ours.
Sure.
But yeah,
you never know. Draft Twitter gets wild sometimes. Sometimes draft Twitter goes crazy.
If you ever had DeAndre Bembry on your board at number 8, don't talk to us. I'm just kidding.
No, but, I think I do want to talk to you even more so.
But okay, so I was thinking like, yeah, like he could be a utility guy, but like a better version of that, right? He's a little bit taller than Bembry, obviously jumps way higher than Bembry. I think eventually, could be a better shooter than him too. But yeah, that's just kind of like where my head was at. Like, I don't know. I was thinking of random people like the junkyard dog, Jerome Williams, like just weird people were in my head. You know what I'm saying? Like,
no, but you see, like one you could kind of see. You're hoping that, again, like Junkyard Dog was just like the garbage man. Like you want him to be like the superstar version of the Junkyard Dog in your head.
Right. Jamario Moon, whatever. But I'm with you, Corey. Like I don't know what his ceiling is. And the terrifying thing, as you mentioned, is if a team goes like, we're going to make him the next, I don't know, Tracy McGrady. That's just not going to happen. That's not there. I really don't believe it's going to happen. But
okay, but let me ask you this: is there? I don't know. I mean, we've been shooting for the stars. Tracy McGrady, Paul George. Is there any chance he develops like a Tobias Harris level offensive game?
Damn, that's a really good question. Tobias Harris, the ghost of the NBA.
Long Island zone.
Long Island. Where is he from? Hicksville, right? Is he from Hicksville?
Half Hollow Hills. Played at Half Hollow Hills West.
I mean, Tobias Harris can shoot the hell out of the ball, though. Will he ever get to that level? Yeah.
On volume, but can he develop some of those skills? I guess is my question.
God damn. Maybe.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't want to say no. Yeah, damn.
I don't want to say no. I'm not. I wouldn't bet on it, but I don't know if I'd want to say no either.
Exactly. This is actually
he might get
really,
his points in different
yeah.
ways, but like,
Mhm.
could he eventually be the guy in the Tobias Harris role on like this version of the Sixers?
Damn, Corey, that's actually a
There's a
really good
chance.
question. Yeah,
There's
there
a
is.
chance. I
Yeah, I
wouldn't bet
won't say
against
no.
it.
There's a chance. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
potentially. Yeah. Okay.
Let's talk about his defense. Now Baylor obviously just they're going to be an awesome defensive team, right? And they're going to recruit players that they know are going to fit in and be awesome defenders. What do you think about his ability on the perimeter to defend?
Okay, so from like a macro sense, I think defensively, I had a lot of questions to ask you.
Okay.
Obviously, because you're the coach, you're the resident coach of our pod. I actually had like real questions that I wanted to ask you. I
Okay.
think perimeter wise, we'll start there because for me, I had more questions about like other stuff defensively, but as like a perimeter defender, he looks kind of terrifying. Like last week, I was talking with oh my God, I almost did it again, dude.
Wow.
Last week, I was talking to Metcalf. I almost called him Rucker again.
I think you did is the issue.
Wow. No, I didn't. I said rat and I stopped. He's gonna hear this too and give me so much crap for it. I was talking to Metcalf and we were talking about that kid Slater from Villanova and the type of defender that he is with, him being so strong. He added a bunch of muscle, but he's still good laterally, uses his wingspan well. I think Kendall Brown is a guy who you can see, like, I think his NBA physique is already there. Like, I think he's going to add a little bit more muscle, but he's already like really well built. Like, he's a physical specimen, but he moves his feet so damn well. And he has some of the most active hands, I think, in college basketball, like defensively. His hands, he is a poking machine. He is a he's a very conservative Christian on his wedding night, is what he is with his hands. This guy, this guy's very jabby with those hands, and but it's good. It's good. He's got really good hands. You mentioned the wingspan. I actually had no idea what his wingspan was, but
I honestly it surprised me because I thought he I don't want to say he looked like he had a negative wingspan, but I almost felt like it would have like measured out almost even. But
yeah, maybe
if it's +3 and it's coming from him, so who knows? Let's wait until the
Right.
official measurements.
That's
You
true.
ask a basketball player how tall they are, and unless they're a 7-footer, they're probably going to add at least an inch, right?
Yeah, unless
So
you're
we'll
Kevin
see.
Durant. But
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
yeah.
The 7-footers, they want to be 6'11",
but
I don't know.
super jabby with his hands, which I like a lot. But I do have some questions for you later on defensively because I'm not in love with him as a defender. I like him a lot as a defender, but I have some questions because, like, okay, on the ball, great footwork, jabby hands, freaking so quick laterally, and then off the ball, he reads stuff really well, like Rucker mentioned, right? Does a really good job of reading what's going on there. My question for you, Corey, was a guy who's 6'8", who's that athletic, who I think is pretty well built physically. I don't like that he only has 3 blocks on the season. Was something that I wanted to throw out to you and ask you about. And then the other question, I know he's had some big rebounding games. How do you feel about him as a rebounder? Because it's, I'm not seeing him box too many people out. He feels more of like a opportunistic rebounder more than anything else. So those are my 2 questions for you. I kind of wanted to get some insight on how you felt about that, because how he ends up defensively on the interior we can then start to wonder about his versatility in terms of guarding 1 through 4. So yeah, I wanted to ask you that.
Yeah. So on the rebounding front, my note is I need him to attack the glass harder. So I think that a lot of times kids in high school that are more athletic than other kids tend to
just
jump, because if you just jump, you're going to get the board, and the ultimate goal is to get the rebound, right? So how many high school coaches are going to tell a kid who's already getting the rebounds to like box out instead, when that recipe's success? Most of these guys, they just want to win. So I feel you on that. The amount of rebounds he has, and look, he's only playing 23 minutes a game, right? So he's kind of in a similar spot to like Scotty Barnes or Patrick Williams was, where some of these raw numbers look low, and you look at like per 40 or per 100, whatever, and maybe they look a little bit better. His rebounding numbers are still a little soft in that regard, even when you extrapolate it out a little bit. Now, part of that, maybe it's the scheme. Maybe he's a lot of times he is playing out on the perimeter, so he's not going to grab as many rebounds down low. But I do think that with that athleticism, with kind of that body that he already has developed, and he's 18 still, ultimately you want him to be a little bit better of a rebounder. Now, in the NBA, a lot of threes, a lot of long rebounds. Maybe it's not as big of a concern, because it was actually something that I had a little bit of a concern with Scotty Barnes last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he's been a better rebounder in the NBA. So I'm not super concerned about it. Something to monitor, something you wish that he was better at. But let's see how that kind of develops over the course of the rest of the season. That's why he's such a fun prospect to do early, because as fun as he is, he does have these little things. As a defender, the blocks, look, if he's going to be kind of a wing defender, versatility is, I think, what makes him such a fun defender. I think that he can guard point guards. I think he can guard power forwards. And in a pinch against certain matchups, I think you can, I think he can guard 1 through 5 in certain matchups, right? Mm-hmm. You wish that he can come over from the weak side a little bit more often, use that bounce. But that's partly why I look at the wingspan and he doesn't look like a shot blocker. He doesn't look like Peyton Watson. He doesn't have that length that you see where you're just like, whoa, like he can come over and get stuff from behind, get some from wherever. He kind of seems like the type of guy that he kind of has to time it perfectly or really come over from the weak side and like send it into the stands type of guy. Like that's the kind of shot blocker he would be. But I do like that he's averaging 1.5 steals a game in, the 23 minutes a game, whatever he's playing. So I'm not super concerned with that. I don't need him to be a big time shot blocker. He does a good job contesting, staying solid. And I just love his ability to move around the floor. I mean, Baylor does such a good job putting guys to succeed. They running that no middle, defense and just icing guys to the sideline, and their rotations are good. And it's just so hard to get good shots. And when you have a guy like him who could switch and will switch out to other guys and send them to the right spots, I think he's defensively, it's almost like, you want him to be able to maybe block some more shots. Yeah, you want him to rebound harder, but it almost feels a little nitpicky when you're really breaking it down. Now, the whole point of following the draft, the whole point of this podcast is like being nitpicky and finding the flaws and figuring out if it's something that you could really fix and how high does that potential go. But I'm in on his defense because I think he's just so versatile schematically.
Dude, I'm with you. One last question that I had for you. I think if you watch his games, like he's going to have 2 or 3 moments per game where he's just unbelievable in the passing lanes. He's got great anticipation, stuff like that. Do you worry? Are you a little bit concerned that he gambles a little bit too much sometimes? Or do you feel like he's got like a really good balance with that in terms of like, when he's playing those passing lanes?
I think that he's got a good balance with it. And I think that when you have a good defensive team who knows how to rotate,
that's a good point.
You're allowed to gamble more often. Right. Because those gambles, they're calculated. Whereas if you're just gambling and you're breaking out of the scheme entirely and you don't have guys behind you that you could trust to step in and recover, because he can gamble, but the rotation's going to be there. And by the time the ball moves, he'll be rotated onto, the place that he's supposed to go. So I think a player like him, like you do want him to create havoc in the passing lanes. You do want him to get these opportunities because he does score so efficiently and he can make plays for everybody else. So if he can get some easy points, just getting deflections and, some of those hustle points, those winning plays that really, matter when it gets down into a close game, and you have guys behind you that are going to be there to get your back, I'm all for it.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I thought that, yeah, it wasn't that I thought he was gambling. It's just it was like a question in my head. I was
Hmm.
like, oh, like he's really good, and you know what? Like when you mentioned the context, I think that really helped me to understand why he is like unafraid to take those gambles. As you mentioned, they're calculated gambles. So,
Yeah.
will he always have that in the NBA? Probably not. But I think with what you're mentioning, it's very balanced. Like he's really thinking this through.
And honestly, he may not even gamble as much like when he gets to conference play. Like you said, like
Right.
some
Yeah.
of these schools sound made up, right? So like look, they just honestly, like some of these kids, they're just not the athletes, not the basketball players that you're going to get against Baylor. So you could take more chances because you know that it's not going to hurt you as much if something goes wrong. And that's just
Right.
the reality. It's going to be different, when you're playing a good school in conference potentially, but I'm not worried about it. I think it's a positive that he can be a pest and get in the passing lanes and get deflections and just be handsy overall.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. I'm with you. And I think overall, what we're saying is we definitely like this guy as a defender. There is a lot to like about him, a lot to get excited about him. I think, obviously, as you mentioned, we're a little nitpicky right now in different areas we think he can improve. It's just for me with the shot blocking, I thought, like, you know, guy his size with his, quote unquote wingspan, and also just like his energy and all that stuff. Like, I thought he'd have more than 3 blocks so far, but the season is long. The season is
Yes.
long, and that might
Yes.
change. So, yeah, definitely a nitpick on my end.
And another thing, like, yeah, again, I'm going off on saying not to compare him to Scotty Barnes, but
Mm,
I'm going to make another little quick comparison to
right.
Scotty Barnes. Scotty Barnes' lack of shot blocking was something that I nitpicked last year with Scotty too. And like, I actually think it was a legitimate nitpick, but clearly it hasn't, been an issue or because sometimes it's like we so want to say, what can't this guy do instead of this is what this guy does so well. Right. And he does do things defensively so well that it's like, all right, he doesn't need to be a shot blocker. Not everybody can
Yeah,
be the complete package. So,
correct. Yeah, I'm with you, dude.
all right. Anything else defensively that you want to hit on Kendall Brown?
Mm, no, in my notes I had footwork, jabby hands, good anticipation. Would like him, like you said, attack the boards more. No, I think I'm good. I think overall, the versatility is what's going to sell him. I think teams are going to be
Well,
really interested in that versatility.
speaking of selling,
Hmm.
it's about
Oh,
that time. It's about that time. Albert, please sell me this pen on Kendall Brown.
Kendall Brown's a really easy pen to sell. I think if you are a team that it really doesn't matter where you are as a team. If you're looking to rebuild, if you're a playoff contender, wherever you are on that spectrum in terms of competitiveness, you're going to want a guy like Kendall Brown. Kendall Brown is, I think, what we're ultimately trying to get at right now is going to eventually be like a supreme Swiss Army knife, a guy who's going to offer you a variety of things on offense. He can lead the break in transition. He can finish in transition very well, pass in transition, even in the half court. He's a guy that's going to be moving all over the court. He's not going to be a stand in the corner and twiddle his thumbs type of guy. He's going to offer you a lot. We think he's a developing shooter who will not ever have the numbers that he has right now. On the next level, but a guy who's working on it, that is developing. I think there are little things in his shot that he's got to clean up. But overall, like he offers you so much versatility wise as an offensive player and defensive player, with him being able to guard up to 4 or 5 positions, and obviously gonna get you a ton of steals and maybe potentially stocks, right? Steals and blocks. So yeah, I mean, whether you're a rebuilding team or a title contending team, he's the type of guy that you want on your team to develop and eventually become a contributor to wherever you are. So he's kind of an easy sell. If you're an NBA team and you're interested in a good basketball player who can do a wide variety of things, you need to grab Kendall Brown.
You know what kind of pen he reminds me of? He reminds me of one of those pens that
The
have like the
the
5
4.
different colors, right? It's like, what do you need? Red, blue, black, green, purple.
Yeah.
He could do whatever for you. He could fill that need. He could fill that role for your team, and that's what I love about him. So, I mean, you had him top 10. That sounds like a buy. I think I've talked myself into bumping him up the board. I had him at 16. Like it's hard to see like why wouldn't you take him in the lottery, right? Maybe that speaks to my love affair of some of these other guys that I have in front of him. But yeah, I think that Kendall Brown is going to be a guy who continues to rise up draft boards. I think by the end of this, he's probably going to be a consensus top 10 guy. Right now, he's not far off, 12.6, but who knows how high he could climb. I think that it could be pretty high. It could be top 10. He can get into the top 7. I think with some strong play, this efficiency, not even just the efficiency could drop off a little bit, but just being that efficient, athletic, versatile, do-it-all utility guy. I see a bright future and plenty of hype building up for Kendall Brown throughout the draft. It's going to be fun to cover him throughout this process and check in on him and see where we're at. All right, Albert, tell the people where they could find you and what you're working on for No Ceilings.
You guys can find me at Alberto Gim. You can find me at GTG NBA on Twitter. I put up all kinds of stuff on my Twitter account, dude. I'm super into F1, super into soccer, super into basketball. Yeah, football stuff. I'm all over the globe. I'm a weird sports nerd, so I post about sports? All types of stuff. I do. And then I love my Succession. But anyway, that's where you find me on the internet. What I'm working on right now, obviously, guys, as we mentioned before, we dropped our No Ceilings collective big board, and we're actually going to post something else about that big board very soon, right? A little teaser there. I'm dropping
today. If you're listening to this, it's today.
That's true. It is today. I'm working on Taking Out the Trash Volume 3, which will be dropping this Thursday. I will be exclusively talking about Julian Strawther. Want to talk about Julian Strawther from Gonzaga, the wing. Obviously, like just as like a little pre-whatever, Kendall Brown is in the top 10 for me because he's so versatile. But when I'm looking at guys that are like in the 20s, right, at the end of the first round, I want guys who are going to be either like, who are going to be really bona fide good at one certain thing. So Strawther's kind of like one of those guys for me. I like him a lot. So I'm writing about him. And I think that's pretty much it.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah, we're going to have, kind of like a roundtable discussion on our big board. That's going to be coming out in the next couple of days. I'm going to see Jaden Ivey on Thursday in person behind the Rutgers bench. I'm very excited about that. Number 1 team in the country, Purdue. Top 5 pick Jaden Ivey. So getting to see him in person up close is going to be really exciting. It's going to be really exciting because, anytime you can see a guy up close, it adds a little bit something to the evaluation, and getting to see him so close as I'll be. Shout out to my guy Frankie for hooking me up. I'm excited. So I'll probably be writing something about Jaden Ivey, and then I think after I write something about Ivey, I really want to cover Peyton Watson, why we should continue to believe, and what his role could possibly be in an evolving NBA. I don't know. I haven't.
Wow.
I'm workshopping it. So a lot of good stuff at the No Ceilings. From the No Ceilings crew. Nathan's continuing to bang out the morning dunks.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole team. Alex did an awesome piece on Taron Armstrong, the Australian playmaking wizard from Cal Baptist. I mean, we're just covering every base imaginable at No Ceilings. So subscribe to the No Ceilings Substack, noceilings.substack.com. Subscribe to the No Ceilings podcast as well if you haven't. If you're a fan of the Draftdaq podcast, listen to the No Ceilings podcast hosted by Tyler Metcalf with a rotating roundtable of guests. We're going to do a Twitter Spaces soon, which is going to be excited. exciting. So we hope that you all participate in that. You're going to have to follow, myself, Albert, and the No Ceilings team at No Ceilings NBA. And that's all the plugging and annoying, things that we're going to have to say today. Rate us 5-star, leave a comment, share,
5.
all that good stuff. Appreciate you guys rocking with us. Another episode of the Draft Act. We'll be back next week. We out.